My brother hooked up with my fiancée. My family forgave them both and demanded I do the same. My final move left them all shattered. Subreddit. This story is about how my brother destroyed my life. My family chose his side, and how I made sure they all understood what consequences actually look like. Buckle up, because this gets messy. I'm Tyler, 28, male, and for most of my life, I thought I had a solid family, parents who cared, siblings I could trust, the whole American dream package. Turns out I was living in a fantasy while everyone else was writing a different script behind my back. My brother Brandon is a year younger than me. We had that typical competitive sibling thing growing up, constantly compared to each other, always trying to one-up the other. He was the charming, free spirit who could talk his way out of anything. I was the planner, the responsible one, the guy who actually followed through on commitments. Growing up, Brandon was always the favorite, not in an obvious way that people outside the family would notice, but in those subtle ways that build up over time. When we both played baseball in high school, Mom and Dad made it to every single one of his games, but missed half of mine because of scheduling conflicts. When he got a C on a test, it was, "You tried your best." But when I got a B, it was, "Why wasn't this an A?" The pattern continued into college. Brandon partied his way through 4 years at a state school, barely graduating with a 2.3 GPA. And my parents threw him a massive graduation party. I graduated summa cum laude with my accounting degree, and they took me to dinner at Olive Garden. The breadsticks were unlimited. At least our sister Bella was the baby of the family, soaking up attention like a sponge and playing the sweet, innocent act whenever it benefited her. My parents, Patricia and Robert, were your standard suburban couple. Mom ran everything with an iron fist disguised as concern, and Dad was the joke-cracking grill master who avoided conflict like it was radioactive. I genuinely believed we were close, that we had each other's backs. Looking back now, I realize I was the only one who actually believed that nonsense. I was the family workhorse, the reliable one who showed up, helped out, and never caused problems, which apparently made me disposable. Everything felt perfect when Emma came into my life during junior year at Arizona State. We met through a group project, one of those situations where you're forced to work together and accidentally discover chemistry. She had this energy that just pulled people in. Confident, ambitious, ridiculously attractive. I fell hard and fast. Looking back, there were probably red flags I ignored, like how she'd get weirdly competitive with other women in our friend group, or how she'd flirt with random guys when she thought I wasn't watching, then claim she was just being friendly. But when you're 21 and convinced you found your person, you overlook things. You make excuses. By the end of that semester, we were official. She moved into my apartment 6 months later, and everything seemed perfect. We fell into this comfortable routine. I'd handle the bills and planning. She'd handle making our social calendar exciting. I thought we complemented each other. Turns out I was just doing all the work while she coasted. We talked constantly about the future. She wanted the big house in the suburbs, 2 kids, a golden retriever. I wanted whatever made her happy. Looking back, I realized she did most of the talking while I did most of the agreeing. Classic dynamic I'd learned from watching my parents. The woman dictates, the man provides. Brandon met Emma at a family BBQ about a year into our relationship. I remember Mom pulling me aside and saying what a lovely girl she was. How lucky I was to have found someone so beautiful. Dad made his usual jokes about me being whipped. Brandon didn't say much that day, just watched Emma with this weird intensity I couldn't quite read. Should have read it better. Over the next year, Brandon started showing up at our apartment more often. Always had some excuse, needed to borrow something. Wanted advice about work. Was just in the neighborhood. Emma never seemed to mind. She'd laugh at his jokes, touch his arm when they talked. Give him that smile she used to save just for me. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was seeing problems where none existed, that Brandon was my brother and Emma was my fiancée, and neither of them would ever betray me like that. 2 years after we met, I proposed on a quiet autumn evening. Nothing fancy, just us at our favorite park. She said yes, cried happy tears, and we started planning a summer wedding I'd saved up for months to afford the ring she wanted. A full carat, princess cut, platinum band cost me almost $4,000, but seeing her face made it worth it. That November proposal felt like the beginning of everything I'd worked toward. Turned out it was actually the setup for the biggest betrayal of my life. March came around and I had one of those rare, slow Fridays at work. Decided to surprise Emma with her favorite takeout and spend a relaxed evening together. I worked as an accountant at a mid-size firm in Phoenix, pulling decent money and building toward partnership. Responsible, stable, boring, exactly who I'd always been. I stopped by that Thai place she loved, the one that made the pad see you exactly how she liked it. Grabbed her favorite spring rolls too. The whole drive home I was thinking about how we'd watch a movie, maybe look at venue options for the wedding, normal couple stuff. I walked into our apartment around 6 p.m. Her shoes were by the door, those ridiculously expensive heels she'd insisted on buying last month that I'd put on my credit card. Her purse was on the counter, but the place felt wrong, too quiet, except for some faint noise coming from the bedroom. My gut twisted immediately. You know that primal instinct that kicks in when something's off? That prehistoric part of your brain that evolved to detect danger? It was screaming at me, but I pushed the feeling down. I was being paranoid. Emma was probably watching videos or on a video call with a friend. I set the takeout bags on the kitchen counter, called out, "Hey babe, I'm home early," but got no response. The bedroom door was closed, which was weird because she usually left it open during the day. The noises from the bedroom got clearer as I walked down the hallway. Laughter, low voices, that particular kind of quiet that means people are trying not to be heard. My hands started shaking as I reached for the doorknob. I opened the bedroom door and my entire world shattered into a million pieces. Emma and Brandon in our bed. In the bed I'd picked out, in the bedroom I paid for, in the apartment I was busting my rear to afford so we could start our life together. She was wearing the oversized shirt I'd given her for Valentine's Day, the one with the ridiculous heart design that she'd claimed to love. Said it was the most thoughtful gift anyone had ever given her. The shirt cost me $40 from some boutique website. Guess it really was memorable, just not the way I'd hoped. They weren't just talking. They were tangled together, her head on his chest, his arm around her. The intimacy of it was somehow worse than if I'd walked in on them actively doing something. This looked comfortable, familiar, like it wasn't the first time. They froze like deer caught in headlights. The silence was deafening. You know that moment when your brain just stops processing because the reality in front of you is too insane to comprehend? That's where I was. My mind was trying to create some alternative explanation. Maybe this was a prank. Maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe I'd somehow walked into the wrong apartment. But no, this was real. This was my brother and my fiancée in my bed, destroying everything I'd built. Time did that weird thing where it moves in slow motion. I noticed everything. The guilty look on Brandon's face, the panic in Emma's eyes. The fact that his clothes were scattered on my side of the bed, the way her ring, my $4,000 ring, caught the light as she scrambled to pull the blanket up. Brandon had the audacity to say, "It's not what it looks like." I almost laughed. The absurdity of that statement while they're literally in bed together, half undressed in my apartment. The comedy writes itself. What else could it possibly look like? A surprise party gone wrong. An interpretive art installation about betrayal. "Get out," I said to Brandon. My voice came out flat, emotionless. Shock has a way of numbing you to the initial impact. He started to move, then stopped. "Tyler, man, let me explain." There's nothing to explain. I can see exactly what this is. Get out of my apartment. Emma finally found her voice. Tyler, please just listen. No, I cut her off. You made your choice. Both of you made your choice. Now deal with it. Brandon grabbed his clothes and started getting dressed, still trying to talk. Something about how it just happened and how they didn't mean for it to go this far and how he was so sorry, bro. Sorry, he was sorry. Like sorry means anything when you've just nuked your brother's life from orbit. I watched him get dressed in silence. Watched Emma cry those pretty tears that used to make me want to comfort her. Felt absolutely nothing. The numbness was almost peaceful in a weird way. Brandon left without another word. Emma tried one more time. Tyler, we need to talk about this. We can work through this. There's no we anymore. Pack your stuff and get out. You have until tomorrow afternoon. But where am I supposed to go? I hear Brandon's place has an opening. You seemed comfortable enough there in spirit. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Good. I walked out of the bedroom, grabbed my keys, and drove to my buddy Kevin's place. Didn't call ahead, just showed up. Kevin took one look at my face and said, "What happened?" Walked in on my brother and my fiancée in bed together. He went pale. Holy crap, man. Are you okay? I nodded. But I wasn't okay. I was in shock. The full weight of it hadn't hit yet. That came later around 3:00 a.m. when I was lying on Kevin's couch, staring at the ceiling. That's when it really sank in. The woman I planned to marry, the person I trusted most in the world besides my family, had been sleeping with my brother in our home, in our bed, wearing my gifts while I was at work, probably thinking about her, probably planning our future. How long had it been going on? Weeks? Months? Had it started before or after the engagement? Did they laugh about me when I wasn't around? Did the whole family know? The questions spiraled through my head all night. Kevin checked on me a few times but didn't push for conversation. He just brought me water and told me I could stay as long as I needed. The next day, while I was at work, Emma moved out. I told her to leave, so I expected that. What I didn't expect was coming home to find she'd taken more than just her stuff. She'd grabbed some of my things too. The good coffee maker we'd gotten as a housewarming gift, my favorite blanket, even some of the furniture I'd paid for, and she left a note on the kitchen counter where we used to keep our engagement photo. The photo was gone too, of course, probably already in the trash or destroyed in some dramatic gesture. The note was short but managed to pack maximum emotional manipulation into just a few sentences. She'd fallen in love with Brandon and never meant to hurt me, followed by some garbage about how these things just happen sometimes and how she hoped I could find it in my heart to forgive them one day. She claimed they'd tried to fight their feelings, but love won out in the end. Love. She called it love. Like love justifies betrayal. Like love gives you permission to destroy someone's life. The note ended with the real kicker. I hope you can still be happy for us one day. Brandon and I want to do this right and have your blessing. My blessing. They wanted my blessing to continue the relationship they'd built on top of my broken trust. The entitlement was genuinely breathtaking. I crumpled the note and threw it away. Thought about burning it, but decided that would give it too much importance. It was just trash, like the relationship it referenced. The apartment felt hollow without her stuff everywhere. But I preferred the emptiness to the lies. At least empty was honest. At least empty didn't smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. My family found out within a few days. I didn't tell them. I'm guessing Brandon or Emma spilled to get ahead of the narrative. Probably Brandon trying to frame the story in a way that made him look less terrible. Mom called immediately furious. Not at me, but at Brandon. She kept saying she couldn't believe her own son would betray me like that. He's not welcome here, she repeated over and over. I can't believe he'd do this to you after everything you've done for this family. It felt good to have her support, but I wasn't naive enough to think it would last. Mom's loyalty has always been conditional. She's the type who prides herself on keeping the family together, even if that means sweeping nuclear-level betrayals under the rug. Give her 2 weeks and she'd be asking me to forgive him for the sake of family unity. The call went on for almost an hour. Mom crying, asking questions about how I found out, whether I'd talked to Brandon since it happened. I gave her the bare minimum, walked in on them, told them both to leave. Hadn't spoken to either since. What was he thinking? She kept asking, like I had any insight into Brandon's decision-making process. He was thinking about himself, Mom, same as always. She didn't like that response, but couldn't exactly argue with it. Dad was different. When I finally answered one of his calls 2 days later, he just sighed and said, "Well, I guess these things happen sometimes." The casual dismissal hit me harder than Mom's dramatics. "These things happen, that's all you've got? I mean, it's not good, obviously, but you're both adults. You'll work through it." Work through it? Dad, he slept with my fiancée in my apartment, in my bed. There's no working through that. People make mistakes, Tyler. You can't hold grudges forever. This wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. This was a choice. Multiple choices, actually. He went quiet for a minute. Then, "Your mother wants to have a family meeting. Get everyone together to talk this through." There's nothing to talk through. Brandon's dead to me. End of discussion. Don't be dramatic. He's your brother. That word, brother, like sharing DNA, somehow excused this level of betrayal. He stopped being my brother the second he decided sleeping with Emma was worth destroying our relationship. Dad sighed again. That disappointed sound he'd perfected over years of dealing with what he considered unreasonable behavior from his kids. "You're upset, I get it, but give it some time. You'll calm down and see this differently." I hung up on him. If he thought time would make me forgive this, he was delusional. Bella tried to be supportive, but I could tell she was conflicted. She'd call to check on me and say she couldn't believe what Brandon and Emma did, but there was always that hesitation in her voice, that careful tone people use when they're trying not to take sides. "I'm so sorry this happened to you," she said during one call. "It's awful, just awful. Thanks. Have you talked to Brandon at all?" "No, and I don't plan to. He feels terrible about it. You know, he's really beating himself up." And there it was. The subtle defense. The implication that his guilt somehow mattered more than my devastation. "Good, he should feel terrible. He did something terrible." I know, I'm just saying. Maybe eventually you guys could talk. Work through this." "There's nothing to work through, Bella. You don't work through this kind of betrayal. You cut it out of your life and move on." She went quiet, and I could practically hear her inner conflict: support Tyler or maintain family peace, be honest or be diplomatic. "I'm here for you," she finally said. "Whatever you need." But I knew that support had limits. The second the family pressure started, Bella would fold. She always did. For weeks, I ignored most of their calls, let them go to voicemail, responded to texts with one-word answers. I didn't have the energy to rehash what happened or hear justifications about why I should let it go. Instead, I threw myself into work, started pulling 60-hour weeks, volunteering for every extra project, staying late every night. My apartment was too quiet, too full of memories. So I avoided it. Better to be at the office where I could focus on numbers and deadlines instead of betrayal and broken trust. My coworkers noticed but didn't pry. I'd always been the quiet guy who kept work and personal life separate. They probably assumed I was gunning for promotion or dealing with some minor personal issue. If only they knew. My boss, Greg, noticed I was putting in extra hours and asked if everything was okay. I gave him the corporate-friendly version, dealing with some personal stuff, using work to stay focused. He nodded, said he appreciated my dedication, and casually mentioned the Denver office. Apparently, they'd been struggling to find someone to lead the team there. Good accountant, reliable, willing to relocate. I fit the profile perfectly. Greg thought I'd be a great fit. Promotion, significant raise, and most importantly, 3 states and 800 miles away from Brandon, Emma, and the family circus. "Think about it," Greg said. "No pressure, but the opportunity's there if you want it." I didn't need to think about it. I wanted out of Phoenix, away from the memories, the family drama, the constant reminders of what I'd lost. "Denver sounds perfect," I told him. "I'm interested, very interested." He smiled. "Great. I'll set up a call with the Denver office manager. This could be exactly what you need." He had no idea how right he was. When I mentioned the relocation to my parents, Dad just said, "Good for you. Fresh start might be what you need." Mom acted like I'd announced I was moving to Antarctica. She cried and begged me to reconsider. "What about family dinners? What about holidays? You can't just leave us behind, Tyler." I told her I wasn't leaving them behind. I was leaving Brandon behind, the person who'd actively chosen to destroy my life. "He's not part of this family anymore," she said firmly. "You don't need to run away. We've disowned him. He's not welcome at family events." "Until you change your mind," I said, "which we both know you will." "I would never." "Mom, I've known you for 26 years. You don't do permanent consequences. Give it a few months and you'll be making excuses for him." She tried to protest, but I wasn't interested in hearing more promises I knew she wouldn't keep. The Denver opportunity came through faster than expected. Greg fast-tracked my transfer, and by early June, I had an official offer letter, 20% raise, senior accountant title, relocation package. I gave my landlord notice, started packing, donated half my furniture to avoid the memories attached to it. Kevin helped me load the moving truck, and by mid-July I was gone. Didn't tell my family the exact date I was leaving. Didn't give them a forwarding address, just left Phoenix and didn't look back. The Denver office was great. New team, new projects, new city where nobody knew my history. For the first time in months, I could breathe without drowning in family drama. I found a decent apartment, bought new furniture, started fresh. But of course, they couldn't let me have peace. July came and I got a call from Mom. Her voice had that careful, calculated tone she uses when she's about to say something she knows I won't like. "Tyler, honey, we need to talk about Brandon." Here we go, right on schedule. 4 months after swearing he was disowned, Mom was ready to forgive and forget. "No, we don't," I said. "Please, just listen. Brandon and Emma, they're getting married." Silence on my end. Let her sit with that statement. They're planning a November wedding. Nothing huge, just family and close friends. And they want to reconcile with you first. They don't want their wedding day to be clouded by this family drama. Family drama. Like my brother sleeping with my fiancée was equivalent to a scheduling conflict. They want to apologize properly. Mom continued, face to face. They know what they did was wrong and they want to make amends before moving forward. That's great for them. My answer is no. "Tyler, please." "No, I'm not reconciling. I'm not giving my blessing. I'm not attending their wedding. I'm not interested in their apologies or their amends or whatever guilt-driven nonsense they're peddling." "But he's your brother." "No, he's not. Brothers don't do what he did. He's just someone I used to know who destroyed my life and is now facing 0 consequences for it." "He's facing consequences," she insisted. "He lost you. He feels terrible about that." I actually laughed. "He feels terrible? He lost me? Mom, he chose this. He chose Emma over me. He chose temporary satisfaction over permanent family. He chose to betray me in the worst way possible. Those were all conscious decisions he made, knowing exactly what would happen. People make mistakes. Stop calling it a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. This was intentional. This was calculated. This was him looking at my life and deciding it was worth destroying." She started crying. That manipulative, guilt-heavy sobbing she'd perfected over the years. "You're tearing this family apart. Brandon wants to make things right and you're being stubborn about it." "I'm being stubborn? I'm not the one who slept with his brother's fiancée and then asked for forgiveness 4 months later so his wedding wouldn't be awkward. That's not making things right. That's damage control." "He's changed, Tyler. He really has. Emma's changed him. She's good for him." That statement was so absurd I couldn't even process it. The woman who cheated on me with my brother was good for him. Sure. "You know what? This conversation is over. Don't call me about this again." "Tyler, please." I hung up. But of course that was just the opening salvo. Over the next 2 weeks I got calls from Dad, Bella, even some extended family members I barely talked to. All with the same message. "Forgive Brandon. Come to the wedding. Stop being difficult." Dad tried the practical angle. "Look, son, holding grudges doesn't hurt them. It hurts you. Let this go and move on with your life." I have moved on. I moved to Denver, got a promotion, started fresh. That's called moving on. You know what I mean. Emotionally, you need to forgive them. Why? What benefit does that give me? They get absolution. The family gets to pretend everything's fine, and I get to swallow my hurt and play nice. How does that help me exactly? He didn't have an answer. Bella tried the emotional route. Brandon's really struggling with your absence. He's depressed. He barely eats. He cries sometimes when your name comes up. Good. Tyler, how can you be so cold? I'm not cold, I'm realistic. He's facing consequences for his actions. That's called justice, not cruelty. But he's family. Family doesn't do what he did. Bella, how many times do I need to say that before someone actually hears me? She went quiet for a minute. I just wish you could see how much he's changed. How sorry he really is. If he was really sorry, he wouldn't be marrying Emma. If he was really sorry, he'd leave me alone instead of demanding forgiveness so his wedding photos look complete. The calls kept coming. August brought wedding invitations sent to my Denver address. I had no idea how they got it. Probably called Greg's office pretending to be family with important information. The invitation was professionally printed on thick cream cardstock. Elegant script announcing the marriage of Brandon and Emma. Location, date, time, RSVP requested. I threw it directly in the trash without reading the details. Didn't even give them the satisfaction of a declined RSVP. September came, and with it, the wedding. I avoided all contact by blocking everyone's numbers. But some family members didn't get the message. The day of the wedding, my phone, unblocked for work, blew up with texts and calls from extended family. Where are you? The ceremony starts in an hour. Your mom's crying. You need to be here. This is so disrespectful. I ignored all of it. Went to the gym, worked out for 2 hours, came home and watched movies. Just a normal Saturday. The next day brought the fallout. Bella called from a new number. I'd forgotten to block it. She launched into her usual guilt trip performance. How could you? Everyone was asking about you. Mom was humiliated. Brandon looked heartbroken walking down the aisle knowing you weren't there. Sounds like a personal problem for all of them. You're being cruel, Tyler. This was his wedding day, the most important day of his life. The most important day of his life was one of the worst days of mine. Funny how that works. Everyone's disappointed in you. They can't believe you'd be so petty. Then everyone can join Brandon in the dead to me category. I'm not interested in maintaining relationships with people who think I should just forgive and forget because it's convenient for them. She tried to continue, but I hung up and blocked that number too. For months afterward, I had peace, real peace. Built my life in Denver without the constant pressure to forgive the unforgivable. Made new friends, dove deeper into work, actually started enjoying my life again. Then February came, and with it Bella's ambush. I was at a coffee shop near my office when Bella walked in. I almost didn't recognize her at first. She'd changed her hair and lost weight, but then she spotted me and made a beeline for my table with that determined look she gets when she's on a mission. Tyler, oh my God, I've been looking everywhere for you. I should have walked out, should have ignored her. But seeing her after 6 months of silence triggered something. Curiosity, stupidity, who knows? How did you find me? I asked, not inviting her to sit, but knowing she would anyway. Mom hired someone to track you down. She's desperate to talk to you. Bella slid into the chair across from me without waiting for permission. Of course Mom did. Privacy means nothing when you're trying to force reconciliation. Mom hired a private investigator. That's not desperate, that's stalking. It's not like that, Bella protested. She's just worried about you. We all are. Worried about me or worried about the optics of me not being in the family photos anymore? She flinched but continued. Tyler, listen, things have changed. Brandon and Emma, their marriage isn't going great. They're struggling and Brandon's realized what a huge mistake he made. Struggling? That's interesting. What kind of struggling? Bella leaned forward, lowering her voice. Money problems, job issues. They fight constantly. Emma quit her job to focus on finding herself. So Brandon's supporting both of them on his income alone. He's stressed all the time. And you're telling me this because he knows he messed up. He knows what he did to you was unforgivable. He wants to apologize, really apologize. She watched me carefully like she expected me to have some emotional breakdown or breakthrough. I took a sip of my coffee. Let me guess. Mom thinks if Brandon apologizes and I forgive him, everything can go back to normal. Not normal. Different. Better. The family's falling apart without you, Tyler. Mom and Dad are barely speaking. Everyone's taking sides. It's a mess. Good. They should be taking sides. There are sides to take in this situation. But you could fix it. Bella's voice rose before she caught herself. You could bring the family back together. Forgive Brandon. Move past this, and we could all heal. The audacity was breathtaking. No, Tyler, please. I'm not interested in Brandon's apologies. I'm not interested in making Mom and Dad feel better about enabling his behavior. I'm not interested in healing with people who fundamentally don't respect me. That's not fair. Fair? Bella, fair would have been my family supporting me when my life imploded. Fair would have been Mom sticking to her word about disowning Brandon. Fair would have been anyone prioritizing my devastation over Brandon's guilt. Her eyes filled with tears. I supported you. No, you said supportive things while ultimately siding with them. There's a difference. I was trying to keep the family together by sacrificing me. Again, like always, she reached across the table and grabbed my arm. Please, Tyler, just hear him out. Do it for the family. I pulled my arm away and stood up. I don't have a family anymore. Her face crumpled. You're being so cruel. We all miss you. Mom cries about you constantly. Dad doesn't even talk anymore. He just sits there looking miserable. They made their choice when they welcomed Brandon and Emma back with open arms while treating me like the problem. That's on them, not me. So you're just going to walk away forever? Throw away 26 years of family over one mistake? One mistake? I laughed without humor. Bella, Brandon didn't accidentally trip and land in bed with my fiancée. That wasn't a mistake. That was a pattern of deliberate betrayal. She tried to keep arguing, but I cut her off. I'm done with this conversation. Don't contact me again. Tell Mom to stop stalking me. Tell Brandon his apology isn't wanted. Tell Dad some grudges are worth holding. I walked out while she was still talking. Left my half-finished coffee on the table. Felt zero guilt. Bella's ambush was just the opening act. 2 weeks later, I'm at work when Greg calls me into his office. He looks uncomfortable, shifting papers around on his desk without meeting my eyes. Tyler, your father is here. He's in the lobby asking to see you. My stomach dropped. Robert had somehow found out where I worked and decided a workplace ambush was appropriate. The audacity of these people never ceased to amaze me. Tell security to escort him out. I tried. He's refusing to leave until he speaks with you. Says it's urgent family business. I closed my eyes and counted to 10, then 20. Fine, I'll deal with this. I went down to the lobby and there he was. Robert looked older, more tired. Gray hair where there used to be brown. Wrinkles around his eyes that hadn't been there a year ago. For a split second I felt bad. Then I remembered he'd shrugged off his son's betrayal like it was no big deal, and the sympathy evaporated. Tyler, he said, standing up. We need to talk. We really don't. How did you find me? Your mother hired someone. We've been looking for months. That's called stalking, Robert. Look up the legal definition. He flinched at me using his first name instead of Dad. The formality was intentional, a reminder he'd lost the right to that title. Don't call me that. I'm your father. Fathers protect their sons. They support them when they're wronged. They don't enable the people who hurt them. You're not acting like a father, so I'm not going to call you one. His face reddened. That's exactly the kind of disrespectful attitude that's tearing this family apart. No, Brandon sleeping with my fiancée is what tore this family apart. Me refusing to pretend it didn't happen is just the consequence. He took a deep breath, the kind people take before delivering a speech they practiced in the car. Your mother and I want you to come home for Easter. The whole family will be there, including Brandon and Emma. We're going to sit down like adults and work through this. Hard pass. You can't keep running forever. They're family. No, they're people who share my DNA. Family wouldn't do what they did. Family wouldn't enable what they did. You're not my family anymore. You're strangers I used to know. He looked genuinely hurt, like my words were somehow worse than what they'd done to me. I know you're angry. I'm not angry. Anger requires caring. I'm indifferent. You're all irrelevant to my life now. That's not true. If you were indifferent, you wouldn't be this hostile. He had a point, but I wasn't about to admit that. I'm indifferent about your opinions. Hostile about you showing up at my workplace and making this my problem again. Your mother's worried sick. She hasn't slept properly in months. She's losing weight. The stress is killing her. Then she should have thought about that before choosing Brandon over me. She didn't choose anyone. She wants to keep the family together at the cost of the victim. That's not keeping anything together, that's enabling abuse. Abuse? Don't be dramatic. Brandon made a mistake. And again with the word mistake. It doesn't mean what you think it means. Robert ran a hand through his thinning hair, frustration radiating off him. What do you want from us, Tyler? What would it take for you to come back? Time travel. Go back and stop Brandon from destroying my life. Barring that, nothing. There's nothing you can give me that would make this okay. So you're just going to throw away your entire family? Your history? Your roots? My roots are poisoned. I'm building new ones. He stood there for a long moment, defeated. Your mother's going to be devastated. She's had multiple chances to do the right thing. She chose wrong every time. That's on her. I don't know what happened to you. The Tyler I raised wouldn't be this cold. The Tyler you raised got walked all over and accepted it. I grew a spine. That's what happened. I turned to go back upstairs, then stopped. And Robert, if you or anyone from that family shows up here again, I'm filing a restraining order. Tell Mom to stop stalking me. I'm done being harassed. I went upstairs without waiting for a response. Greg was waiting near my desk. Everything okay? It will be if my family contacts this office again. Have security remove them immediately. I'll handle a restraining order if needed. You got it. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Not your fault, just family being family. Except they weren't family anymore. They were obstacles I needed to permanently remove from my life. March brought the nuclear option, showing up at my house. I came home from a late shift to find Mom, Dad, and Bella sitting on my porch. Brandon and Emma were standing near a car in my driveway. The rage that hit me was ice cold and crystal clear. Get off my property. Mom stood up, putting on that fake sympathetic face she uses when manipulating. Tyler, please, we drove 6 hours to see you. Just give us 10 minutes. You drove 6 hours to ambush me at my home, which you found through illegal means. That's not dedication, that's stalking. Get off my property or I'm calling the police. Brandon stepped forward. I held up a hand. Stop. Don't come closer, don't speak. You lost the right to my attention when you decided sleeping with my fiancée was worth destroying my life. Tyler, I'm sorry, he said, ignoring my instructions. I know what I did was wrong. I've spent every day since then regretting it. Emma and I want to make amends. The audacity, the absolute audacity of standing in my driveway with the woman he'd stolen, asking for forgiveness. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry there were consequences. You're sorry I didn't roll over and accept it. But you're not sorry you did it. Because if you were, you wouldn't have married her. Emma started crying. Of course she did. I loved you, she sobbed. But I fell in love with Brandon. It wasn't planned. These things just happen. No, these things don't just happen. You made a choice. Multiple choices, actually. You chose to respond to his advances. You chose to go to our bedroom. You chose to betray me in our home, in our bed, wearing my gifts. Those were deliberate actions, not accidents. Mom jumped in. Tyler, you're being unreasonable. They made a mistake, but they're trying to fix it. The Christian thing to do is forgive them. The Christian thing to do would have been not sleeping with my fiancée. But here we are. Dad finally spoke. Son, holding grudges will only hurt you in the long run. Let this go. That's when something in me snapped, completely. You want me to let it go? Fine, here's what I'm letting go. You, all of you. Brandon destroyed my life, and they welcomed him back. Emma betrayed me, and they welcomed her into the family. Bella stood by and said nothing. Mom and Dad treated my devastation like a minor inconvenience. I pointed at each of them. You treated nuclear betrayal like a spilled drink on the carpet. We're trying to keep the family together, Mom insisted. No. You're trying to avoid uncomfortable truths by forcing the victim to forgive the perpetrators. That's not keeping family together. That's enabling disgusting behavior. You're our son, Dad said. Was. Past tense. I was your son. Now I'm just the guy whose life you all destroyed and then stalked across state lines to demand forgiveness from. I pulled out my phone and hit record. I want all of you to hear this clearly. I will never forgive Brandon. I will never forgive Emma. I will never have a relationship with any of you again. You are all dead to me. If you show up at my house again, I will file a restraining order. If you show up at my work again, I will file a restraining order. If you contact me again, I will file a restraining order. Mom sobbed hysterically. Dad looked stunned. Bella cried softly. Brandon and Emma looked like they'd been punched. Get off my property. You have 60 seconds before I call the police. They left slowly, with dramatic glances back like I might change my mind. I didn't. I went inside, locked the doors, and immediately started filing for a restraining order. Turns out having video evidence of them refusing to leave after being warned several times really speeds up the process. That was 8 months ago. I haven't heard from any of them since the restraining order was finalized. Best 8 months of my life.